Initially, it was Paul and I have been talking for about 6 months, kind of like over social media, and we kind of when we were discussing it, we both felt that as salon managers and as barbershop managers and barbershop owners, it was just like we'd kind of reached a level where it's just where you're constantly having to inspire and motivate your team and make sure that the standards are good, but once you're at the top of the food chain in the shop, then there's no one to to give you a kick in the ass. It's always inspiring working with your team, but it's just to constantly be refreshing what they're doing, just with your own wind in your sails is can be quite exhausting. So we decided to do something together because we were like, well, this is great, we can learn from each other, we can spend time. It's a bit of a like a busman's holiday, I guess. Like we can kind of work together, and it was just we just wanted a new vibe. Like we just wanted something that was going to re-inspire us and just get us off on a new foot, and hopefully to help us progress. And at the beginning, that was the idea. We're like, well, we'll start with us, and then we'll incorporate other barbers as we find them, and and hopefully all progress together. Like that was the initial inspiration, I guess.
It was pretty much that. Take the barbershop experience out. So literally take everything that we're trying to do inside our barbershop out, to people that aren't in our area, and take it in the UK and Europe. So that's pretty much our main goal, wasn't it? It was to take the experience out to the masses, but put it into different kind of cultures and lifestyles, so it doesn't just have to be about a barbershop. It can be about more.
Yeah, I guess. Also, it's just as a vessel for us to show people what we were doing with our shops, as a showcase. Like there's using it as an opportunity to take the atmosphere and the service and the ethos and everything that we have that revolves around our shops, and just and taking it to people that that we would like to see in our shops, people that are part of atmospheres that, or part of circles that we revolve in, and just and people that that are our customer base, so whether it's tattoo conventions or skate comps or music festivals or anything like that, like these are all people that come into our shop all the time. So in a way, it was just as much as it being a vessel for us to to show them what we were doing, it's also giving something back, and being in the environment that we were born out of, like the whole the image and the lifestyle that centers around our shop was born out of all of those things. It's what we grew up doing. So to then come full circle and then take it back to the same places, and just being like, look, this is this isn't a corporate marketing ploy. Like this isn't, there isn't some executive in an office being like, hey, we've got this market and we're going to tap into it. It wasn't that at all. It was just the fact that we were like, we are the same as you, and this is what we do for a living. We care a great deal about it. We think that you'll really like it if we show you in the right way. And that's what we did. We just we just took it there for for people to see and experience that couldn't necessarily make it to our shops, and just go from there.
Okay, so when you started this project, did you feel like you was taking a gamble? Because obviously to build a barbershop in a tattoo convention like this, there is quite an investment to be made in order to do that. So did you feel like you was taking a big financial gamble?
Do you want me to take this one?
You can take that one.
Yeah, massively. People are still bewildered now, and some of these events cost thousands and thousands of pounds to, organise, and then you got to weigh it up and you go, right, when we first started, like Brad was saying, we were quite naive to the fact. We just wanted to get out there. But, over the years and the amount of money that we've both invested and the time and everything else that it's cost, you can sit there sometimes and weigh it up and think, was this the right move? And you build your shops and you put all that money and investment, and between us, over 30 years of, cutting hair, and you think sometimes, hold on, maybe that time and money might have been, best to stand behind our own chairs. And it's that whole thing, you spend all that time and effort and blood, sweat and tears building your own shop, and that we've had, and then you spend the next 4 years traveling all around the world, trying to promote it and make it bigger. So, you have longevity in, in this industry, especially nowadays. But I'm a risk taker. I know I don't ever want to live in regret, and I've always been like that. And that can work for some people. People can be safe, but I think me and Brad are both on the same page. We were like, fuck it, what's the worst that can happen? As long as we've got a story and as long as we can learn from our mistakes, let's just go for it. And it's been recently where, major investments been put into, expanding our own businesses, and now that's why we're starting now to bring on, like-minded individuals. And then we're getting them involved, so it can help them and push their own shops, but also takes a lot of this the stress and pressure off of us as well. You kind of sometimes you've got to learn you're only as strong as your weakest link, so you just got to kind of plan it out a little bit better, haven't you? But initially, we never knew what we were getting into, and the first couple of events. People think that you make a killing out of pop-ups. You have no idea. It's a risk, and you have to explain those risks. And that's to you, to your staff, to your accountant, and then foremost to your loved ones and your family. Sometimes we've gone home, haven't we? Yeah. We did an event on Brighton seafront, and it killed us. Because the year before, 50,000 people turned up. And it was like one of the biggest, seafront, it was like a surf competition, wasn't it? So it was called Paddle Round the Pier. And then the year that we decided to do it, and we ploughed loads of money into it, it was the worst storm that hit Brighton seafront in 10 years, and it fucked us, didn't it?
Yeah, when you can't do something like that, you can't get your money back.
No.
It was. There's when especially doing outside events. Yeah, thank you. I'm a flake. Doing outside events is always a risk because you're totally at the mercy of the weather. If it's glorious and it's sunny, then it's amazing. But then just like the flick of a switch, all of a sudden the weather turns, and you can't turn around to the organisers and be like, oh, we kind of need to get our money back because it rained. It's just kind of like that's never going to happen. So you do have to. It is a lot of risk, but I think when you compare. Kind of sort of like doing the events, and when you look at there was so many things, like especially when I started my first shop, there's so many people like hitting you with kind of like different advertising techniques and being like, oh yeah, we can do this and we can do this and we can do this, and there are some things where there's no way of gauging how much money you're spending and kind of sort of like and how effective that actually is. Like that people are seeing it, but like are they just thumbing past it or is it going in or whatever? So with the money that we invested in doing the pop-ups, we're like this is a way of us kind of sort of like reaching these people directly and actually putting the product in their hand, and then they can actually see firsthand like not only what we do but how we do it, and you can create a whole atmosphere which you can't do kind of sort of like on the internet, just kind of sort of you can't do in a magazine. Like people need to experience. So, and it's a huge risk, but I think because it had that kind of hidden potential to have that little bit extra, in the long run it was definitely worth it. And it's like in the short term there were times when we were pulling each other's hair out, but in the long term it came good, I think.
Okay. By all accounts, do you feel that you was the first guys to set up a pop-up shop, pop-up barbershop?
In the realms of where we've been doing and the events that we've been doing, because there was nothing like it.
No, it didn't exist at tattoo conventions or anything like
shows,
that.
Music festivals, maybe in Europe, I think, and possibly like at some of the rockabilly shows, but not the hardcore and punk shows and the other events that we've been doing. And it's taken 5 years to build these relationships up. Like we were having that conversation the other day, the kids hitting you up and going, fucking hell, it's amazing, you get all free shoes and you get this and you get that. Well, I can't go home and put a pair of Vans on the table and say, there you go kids, eat that. I can't turn around to my staff and just so I can't you're not going to earn any money this week, but you can have a shitload of pairs of Dickies and stuff.
Yeah.
So
it was never at the beginning. It was never kind of sort of. I don't know if we were the first. I think we were perhaps one of the first. But yeah, it was like Paul said, like at the beginning it was never. It was never about kind of sort of like notoriety or sponsorship. And like when we did the first event, if someone's been like, oh yeah, like someone's going to pay for you to go and do something, and be like, dude, really? No, it's just like there's like we're just two guys with two little shops, and like we're just doing our own thing. Like the idea that it could capture people's imaginations in the way that it did is is amazing. You know, like it still blows me away. Like it was. I remember the very first trip that Paul and I did. That kind of like the first time where someone paid us to go abroad rather than it being self-financed, and we were like walking along it was in Italy, and we were walking along the seafront, and we were just looking at each other, be like, what are we doing here? Like, how did this happen? You know, like this is kind of sort of like, I mean, it was, I think at that point it was maybe like 18 months before that happened, like from the first event to kind of sort of to that, and it was and there was a lot of working details out and things that made it happen. But if you told us 18 months before that we were going to have kind of sort of like a company kind of like fly us over to Europe to cut hair on the beach, we were just like, this is insane. You know, like it's been an interesting journey, definitely.
But people don't understand as well. We had to pitch this idea. It wasn't just because we put up a few pictures on Instagram. You know, like this is all about, you know, like, and we keep on saying, business is all about relationship. You know, you have to work at these relationships, and it comes into debt to you, doesn't it? Because like, it cost us thousands. But you prove your worth, and you know, like, and that's where the relationship comes. But every event that we do, even to this, still got to pitch your idea. You know, like.
And talking about relationships, tell me what kind of feeling you get when you get some of the biggest names in barbering turning up to cut them at your event. What personal feelings do you get between you when you achieve that end?
It's crazy. Like it's kind of sort of, you know, because there's, you know, like we never did it to kind of sort of to elevate our own kind of sort of personal status. It was always about kind of sort of, you know, like creating an interest in, you know, it's always been incredibly open-hearted, and just there's, you know, like we've always wanted to meet kind of sort of to meet other people as well as kind of sort of helping to establish I guess kind of sort of like our shops, you know, like, and being like, look, you know, like this is a representation of our shops in a public forum. That's what it was about, you know, like not kind of sort of not putting ourselves on a pedestal or anything like that. So I mean, when you have people traveling across the country to kind of sort of like to come and kind of sort of interact with us, it's amazing. Like it's just, and it's nerve shredding. Like it was just, there's, you know, like when you can, there's, you know, because there's part of the reason that we did it was because we can sort of like, Paul and I had like this intense desire to learn. You know, we felt that we got to a point in our careers where, you know, I was proud of the work that I was producing, but I knew that it could be better. And it was just, and the only way of making it better was surrounding yourself with people that are better than you. Like it was just, there's, you know, like in whatever, you know, there were things that, there are strengths that I have, there are strengths that Paul has, there's just so, you know, like, and the more people that are included, you're constantly picking up new stuff and you're constantly developing, and those people are picking up things from you. And, you know, like that it was always supposed to be kind of sort of like supposed to be public, you know. And then we had, you know, like over the last 4 years, we've had, you know, like some of the UK's like kind of sort of brightest young stars like come through the pop-ups, you know, like people like Frank Rimmer and Colin Petrie and people like that. All of them consider SB Barbers, like everyone's come through the pop-up and then just kind of like and gone and done their own things. Like some people have stayed with us and kind of sort of like and carried on with what we're doing, and then they've found whatever little pocket of the industry it is that fits with them, and then they've developed. And it's just, it's been, you know, there's, looking over the last 4 years, it's just kind of, it's mental seeing how many things have happened, and how many, you know, like how many people we've interacted with, and, you know, like, and learned from and developed, and other people that have taken, I don't know, perhaps taken stuff from us and then, you know, like, and develop their own things. So it's just, it's been a really interesting process, you know, and we didn't expect any of that.
You said national, you've even had international people visiting and guesting at your shop.
Amazing, you know, like having kind of sort of people like kind of like Shane Nesbitt and kind of like Khalil from Razor Sharp, and kind of like Brian Burt, and just there's so Barber Justin, just kind of, there's so many,
Julius,
all of the guys. Just kind of like, we could go on and on, like it's literally like a kind of like an Instagram roll call of kind of sort of like of some of the best barbers in the world, you know, like, and to be stood kind of sort of like shoulder to shoulder with those guys and learning from each other was an honour, like totally amazing, you know, like it was, there's, you know, like,
and now to call them friends as well.
Definitely, you know, like to have kind of sort of these guys that, you know, it's not just a professional respect, you know, like people that we speak to on the phone regularly, just kind of like, you just call them up just to say what's up and just kind of like just see what they've done with their weekend, you know, like to now have people that, you know, like I remember kind of watching, like at the beginning before the pop-ups, you know, like there's, when I guess kind of like step-by-steps on YouTube and things like that was still very much in their infancy, like they existed, but it wasn't to the extent that it is now. And then just seeing some of these guys and being like, oh, it's amazing, you know, like watching the techniques, but then actually having the opportunity to meet them in real life, and kind of sort of I can see those techniques being done firsthand is just kind of sort of like, it's been amazing. Like, just, I mean, I've been cutting hair for 17 and a half years, I think, and just kind of like, and I feel like I've progressed more in the last 4, and then just kind of like, and really producing work that I'm really, really proud of, and I can feel it kind of sort of getting better as well, you know, like I'm definitely not there yet. It's just kind of like, there are things that it's just, I think the amount of work that I'm proud of compared to things that I wanted to change in the past is just kind of like the ratio's starting to be more favourable in the stuff that I'm really, really proud of, and it's just and that's purely because of this whole process. You know, that never would have happened if I was just in my shop, just kind of just not interacting with all these other people.
A little bit, a cash maybe. Again, hopefully, it's just spreading the the names of everybody's shop, and to put that kind of and to put the people that we're working with, you know, on that same kind of experience level that we had, and just meeting new people. You know, like every single day, it's just constant. You know, like you're meeting a meeting. You do see a hell of a lot of like regular faces. You know, for me, I get to see everybody, you know, like from the States or anything else, and I get to see, you know, like tattooists that I might only see once a year. So that's kind of cool. So I get to carry on those friendships and relationships. But it is, again, it's just taking experiences. It's just always new experiences.
Yeah, apart from the need for a decent night's sleep, it's I guess kind of sort of just the same satisfaction that I get from a busy day at the shop. Really, like it was just kind of sort of, there's, you know, like being able to interact with people that I love to work with. You know, it's just there's, and a lot of the time, because everyone does go back to their own shops, everyone kind of sort of like comes back together, and it's just there's, you know, like it's like having a home from home. You know, like there's all of a sudden when you're back with kind of like the team that you've orchestrated and you've built, it's amazing. You know, like it's amazing to go away from. I think it's surprisingly like it's kind of it's given us what we needed to kind of sort of to make our shops really strong. So a lot of people have been like, well, you know, like how does going to Italy help you, or how does going to, I don't know, kind of like Paris or Berlin or kind of sort of like anywhere else in the country. But there's the amount of, I think, kind of sort of just, I think the focus on the shop, and then the fact that we can kind of sort of, we can use those trips to kind of like to showcase our shops in other places, that, you know, like we've now had people, I mean, people don't stay where they are anymore, you know, like it's just kind of sort of like the world's shrinking at such a rate, and especially with social media, like it's just there's, you know, like what might be a problem in mileage then becomes less of a problem with social media. So when you have people traveling around the world, they're like, whoa, I'm in Brighton, I'm in London, I'm in Bristol. There's going to be like, there's, you know, like people will find you. Like, I mean, I've had people turning up at the shop from Australia and America and across Europe, and they're just like, you know, dude, like we were literally like 50 miles away by chance. Like we had to come through. Have you got time for a haircut? And it's just and that's great. And then locally, like it's really, you know, like there's clients young and old have kind of looked at what we've been doing, and it's just there's, you know, like, and they like to come into the shop and they like to talk about our experiences. And I think that's why we're at a time now where it's been like, you know, doing this has enabled us to make our businesses really, really strong, and we are shop boys. And I think it's time now that, you know, like it's like we really do kind of sort of concentrate on the fact that we've invested all this time into kind of sort of into promoting the shops, and then now it's time to be in the shops and really enjoy that. Yeah.
This year has been a whirlwind, and I never thought that I'd ever, you know, like I'd do 75 flights, and that's due down to, you know, like commitment and promotion, and, you know, working with the brand, and, you know, like with my sponsorships and stuff. So that's that. Next year, it is all about focusing on my shops now. So we'll do the Barber Life Expo. We'll still carry on, but we're going to pass over the flame, I think, to London. We will do, and I will do the main events, you know, and honour my sponsorships. But the only time I'm ever going to travel is either on holiday with my family and then one or two. But education has now come into a big part of what I'm doing, especially in Latin Spain and in Europe, and with my Germany shop. So that's going to be the focal point, but it's not going to be as hectic. So for me, and I know probably I'm speaking for Brad as well, our main focus in 2016 is working on the new projects that we've been working on probably in secrecy for the last 15, 16 months. And you're just starting to see bits coming out via social media and, you know, and in other conversations. So yeah, I've got 2 kids, I've got a wife to please now, so it's all about my family and my shops and AO&O, and that's pretty much. So it's going to consolidate, you know, to be long, you know, like to stay and have longevity, not just to go, you know, like and put some good pictures up, you know, because I'm here, there, and everywhere.
Think about why you're doing it. Is the kind of sort of is the one that kind of sort of springs to mind immediately. I think kind of sort of there's, you know, like there has to be a reason why, kind of sort of beyond basic self-promotion. Like it's just kind of like why are you self-promoting? You know, like what kind of sort of like what really is the plan? You know, like is it something? Do you just want kind of sort of notoriety on kind of sort of like on social media, or do you want to actually kind of sort of put something kind of sort of like into the industry that kind of sort of like that has value? And also just kind of, you know, like what, you know, like at the end when you are spending a lot of money on doing them, you know, like, and it's everything. It's things like accommodation and transport and all the other logistics and stuff that you have to do. Like it's just there's so many things that come into it, and it's just there's, you know, like if you are going to invest that kind of sort of that time and energy, and then also just, you know, I mean, like Paul touched on with kind of sort of like with his family, you know, like there are the people that are around you when you're doing these things and you're disappearing all the time. Like you have to juggle your real life with it as well, and just kind of like in getting kind of sort of, you know, like a life that you're projecting and a life that you really have confused is dangerous. So it's just you need to have kind of sort of like a clear, concise idea of what value kind of sort of like doing the pop-up brings, you know, like, and it's something that we had to learn, you know, and we definitely kind of sort of, you know, it was a difficult process at times, but I think that would be my main advice.
Always had this idea, and it's been thrown around with me and my business partner in AO&O. You know, what we see and what we want to do in the near future, and this opportunity came about for another. You know, a long-standing friendship that I've got with another guy called Ollie, who's an amazing entrepreneur, and we've been talking over probably about a year, and we got offered this incredible location in Brighton, and so it's going to be a coffee shop, barbershop, and then it's over 2 floors, and downstairs we've got 2 studios. One's going to be an office and showroom. And then one's going to be like a private studio for seminars, cutting courses, shave courses, everything else like that. So hopefully we're going to open in about 3 or 4 weeks. It's all about interior design, this one. You know, we've gone way over budget. But it's just something that we wanted to bring. You know, the industry's changed, you know, like especially what we've seen in the last 4 years. And again, it's nothing that I'm not already doing. It's a lifestyle, and we want to bring that lifestyle in. So you're going to see, you know, like the AO&O lifestyle all the way through, but it's always going to it's the food side and the you know, the coffee side of it is going to be insane. Yeah, I think we've got like 30 covers on the main floor, and then we've got four barber chairs running, and it's taken into account everything around us. Big industrial feel. It's all brushed concrete, everything's been bespokely made. So I'm looking forward to it, and it just adds on to the Lewis Road shop as well.
Epically Tapered was, I guess we kind of sort of like we were starting to get kind of sort of just busier and busier at Harry Blades and Angry Dave's, and I think because there's a few differences with kind of sort of like with the original store, and I wanted to have a store that was purely about kind of sort of like traditional barbering, and that's kind of, that was very important. The second one, we ended up collaborating with my friends that kind of sort of that own 50/50 store, which is kind of like is one of like the longest standing independent skate shops in the country, and they had a space, and they kind of sort of, so we ended up working in conjunction with them, and the whole Epically Tapered thing kind of sort of came as a reference to one of my favorite documentaries about kind of skateboarders from the 90s, which was my generation. Is some documentaries called Epically Latered, and the whole kind of play on words just kind of sort of just came about just through that. And I think it kind of tied into kind of sort of to work that kind of sort of that I do and we both do within the skateboarding industry. And the fact that it's just kind of like, it's something that I grew up with, and it's something that I love. It's not a shop that's exclusively for skateboarders, but the fact that it's within within kind of like the skate shop space, and then also just kind of there's, you know, it's something that I'm incredibly passionate about. It was something that then came on with the business. And also one of the other things that I didn't want to do was then start replicating the original shop. The original shop is a one-off, and it will always be a one-off. So I was just like, if we do a second, it has to be something different. I don't want people to see me opening a chain, because there's every single shop that kind of sort of that I have opened and hope to open. Possibly, it's just kind of like I want to be kind of sort of like a different facet of something that interests me and something that means something to me, so people know that it's just kind of sort of, you know, that it does come from the heart. It's not kind of sort of like, I guess I am a businessman technically. Like, it was just like there are kind of sort of, you know, like I do want to develop my business. I do want, you know, like I do want to see that become successful, but I don't want it to be just about the money. It's never just about the money. I always want kind of sort of to have, you know, like the right people in the right shops, and the shops to have its own kind of sort of like its own specific identity. And I think with Epically Tapered, it's just a different side of my personality compared to the original shop. I mean, it's something that kind of sort of in my career in the past, when I was much more heavily involved with hairdressing, there was kind of like I did a lot of technical education, and also kind of cutting education, whether that was within the kind of like the salon that I worked for, or with kind of sort of like other companies that were associated with that business. And it was always something that I really enjoyed, but it was quite industry focused. And then when I moved and started working in more independent shops, I just kind of focused on my own work and what I was doing within those shops. And then through, I guess, kind of sort of like the last kind of sort of like 12 to 18 months, like started getting a lot of people either kind of sort of sending me messages through Instagram or Facebook, or emailing the shop and just being like, you know, I'd love to come and shadow you at the shop, and I'd love, you know, and there's a few people that I've kind of helped over the last couple of years to kind of sort of, you know, like either to get back into the industry or to have like an introduction to the industry. And then it was like, well, you know, like I don't have a huge amount of time now, you know, like, and to have people shadowing me in the shop is just kind of, it's a lovely idea, but logistically it's a bit of a nightmare. So it's like, well, you know, like if you want to come and work and learn, and you want to see how I do things, you know, so I would never assume to kind of elevate kind of sort of what I do in any way, but it's just like, but if you are interested in seeing how I go about things, then of course I'll show you that. So started doing these courses on usually on a Sunday, where can like people come to the store, you know, like there's Epically Tapered is a very, very small barbershop, so it's only 3 chairs. So it gives me the ability to do, even though it's with 3 separate people, it gives me the ability to work one-on-one and work very closely, because I don't want to do kind of huge lessons where, you know, I want to see people benefit kind of sort of from what we're doing. And yeah, I really enjoy it, you know, and I think it's one of the interesting things about education is it helps you understand your own methods a lot better, because when you're working in the shop every day, you just take you kind of take it for granted, like you've done it for years, so you don't really stop and think about what you're doing, you just do it. And then when somebody asks you why are you doing that, then a lot of the time you kind of stand back and be like, it's quite a good question. It's just like, then when you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, right. It's just like the reason that I did that like that is because I've tried all these other ways over the years, and then kind of like, and this is the way that I've found kind of sort of like works most efficiently or correctly or whatever. And then it's just and it helps you give for me, I get a lot from it, because it gives me a much more concise idea of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, because I have to explain it rather than it just being a process that I'm used to.
Basically, through this incredible sales team and agency and distribution company that we've gone through in Germany, when they were selling all the clothing brand and speaking to all the German buyers, they loved all the clothing, but they didn't get the story behind it. So that was kind of stopping them in some ways. They were like, okay, you know, it's just a t-shirt brand, but we don't understand the barber side of it. We understand the tattoo side, you know, with clothing brands like Rebel 8 and Famous and Sullen and those kind of brands. So when we used to keep going over there and sitting down through sales meetings and stuff, Stefan, the head of the agency, sat there and just said, the agent, you know, like the industry doesn't exist, the culture doesn't exist. So we kind of sat there and went, well, what should we do then? And he was just like, I think we open up a barbershop. And then we had a further conversation in Paris. And that was in the end of October. And then it took us 2 months to find a premises, just literally off one of the busiest high streets in Cologne. opposite what their equivalent at the BBC, and it took us 12 weeks, and we opened up on the 24th of January, and flew over a couple of guys from the UK, because again the industry doesn't exist there. It's all salon based. Everybody goes to unisex salons to get cut. Yeah, we've been going, and it's literally just been getting better and better and better. We've got 3 chairs running, and we've got some incredible barbers. So all in all, it's been a really, really good success. But you put it this way, Cologne has got a population of 1 million. And then the barbershops that have opened up in the last 9 months, there's 4. So you kind of figure out, in the outer districts, you've got the Kurdish and Turkish, and that kind of, those kind of barbershops. But as in the traditional barbershops, that kind of what we're used to and what you're used to seeing, and everyone else, there's 4.
So it's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, and the Germans are very methodical. They look at something, they work it out, and once they've experienced it, that's it. You've got them, and then because obviously it's a good service, and the other good thing as well, we're going in at around the 25-30 euro mark, but if you go to a unisex salon, they're used to spending 40 to 60, so instantly they're like, wow, okay, and I'm even getting a better haircut because now through the likes of social media and magazines and all the other outlets, they're bringing in those and they're getting it. They're getting exactly what they want, where they probably were kind of getting something similar but not spot on. So yeah, and it's it's just going from strength to strength. So, and we're already looking at another location in another part of Germany. So who knows what's going to happen. Yeah, we've been working on that now for a year, and we're now almost there. It's got, we've had some really, really good responses, especially over in Northern America and, in mainland America. Fingers crossed, you should see something hopefully by January. And
do we have any idea of any unique selling points?
Unique selling points? It's no, just there's 3 products in the range so far, and we've been working on it and testing it, and it's been going back to the lab, it's been going back to packaging and the whole marketing strategy behind it and stuff, and we've got some incredible people involved. Again, the companies that we've teamed up with are amazing, and I never thought that I'd ever get to sit on a table or even like on a Skype call with some of the companies that we're involved in. So it's just going to add to that range, and to the A&O brand. So it was the next step. And then, I don't know if you've seen downstairs, the accessory range is building with the shears and the razors and then adding to that the collaboration that we've just brought out of electric. So it just all fits. So it's just building on that whole lifestyle brand. And
when can we expect an announcement on the web products?
Hopefully within the next, I want to announce it by Christmas, but I'm being told not to. But again, it's just making sure that everything's ticked off. But yeah, hopefully Christmas.